Definitely. I love your answers, by the way. They're definitely giving me a different perspective.
Thank you.
But okay, let's get back to more about you and your story. Earlier, you mentioned that you were in a psych ward. What's that about? How did that even happen? Are you, just talk to me a little bit about that.
Okay, yes. So let's rewind to the beginning of my life. My father was an alcoholic and a drug addict. My mother was only 14 when she had me. And so early on, things were a little rough for us. My mother was outcast for being a teen mom. You know, she wasn't very accepted by her family for doing that. So it pushed her to the streets with my dad, and his habits wasn't the healthiest options. They break up, and my mother gets into another relationship with a man who is toxic. She gets abused. I get molested. Terrible things happen. We end up homeless because my mother does leave this man, and he gets arrested. Into another toxic relationship with a more abusive man who physically abused her. And I would see my mother being drugged. I've seen her get hit with bricks. I've been held at gunpoint by her ex-husband. She's been held at gunpoint by her ex-husband. Because of those events and because of the abuse that I experienced, it drove me crazy. It was really hard for me. It was hard for me in school. We moved around a lot, so I was very outcast. I was very alone. I felt very alone, at least. And one thing led to another. I was diagnosed with PTSD, bipolar depression, anxiety, so forth and so on. And I attempted to overdose on my own prescription medicine at the age of 16. And when I did that, it was a very eye-opening experience for me. Obviously, it didn't work because I'm here today. But it did shake me up to the point where I realized the actual value of life, and I realized that I wasn't fed up more so with living. I was fed up with suffering while I was alive, and I wanted to do some changing. And you wouldn't believe it, but my mental health issues was not the reason that I ended up in a psych ward. After I tried to commit suicide, I went on a journey of self-awareness, and I started to try to control the controllables, which means like I cut my hair, I changed my style, I started to write, and that's actually how my poetry book was birthed. I felt like nobody would listen to me, and so I wrote and I wrote and I wrote and I wrote and I wrote so much poetry until I eventually decided to write a book about it. And I felt like I was getting better, but my mom, a year later, after that attempted suicide, she admitted me to a psych ward, and it was nothing I could do about it because she was my guardian, and she told the people there that she was concerned about me, and they believed her. And I was very irate because I didn't want to go into that place. I didn't understand why I was there, but I did find out later that she had admitted me because it was for money. They were paying her to test a new medicine on me.
Wow.
And so she admitted me for the money. And because I acted crazy when I got there, I was irate, they put me on the top floor, and that was another eye-opening experience.
Wow, that's crazy. Again, a lot to unpack there. Wow. So from all of that, first of all, what's your relationship like with your mom now? Are you guys still talking? Like how, like, what's
Me and my mother, we are working on our relationship. We are working on healing our relationship because we do have some struggles, as you can imagine, with everything that we've been through, and even some of the things that the relationships that she put herself in, that just because she was in those relationships, I was affected by them. So we do have some healing to do between our mother-daughter bond, and we're working on that now. So I don't hate her. I don't harbor any negative emotions towards her because I know that, one, she really was doing the best that she could, especially having me at 14, especially knowing her own history, not feeling loved in her own home. And she didn't have much of an example of what a mother should be and how they should act. So she just did the best that she could do. And yeah, so we're working on it. That's all.
Talk to me about your transition from that dark place into the light place you are in today, because those events that you just described were really dark, and I can't imagine how one could go from such experiences into, you know, a beautiful light space that you're in now.
Thank you. It was not easy. It was not easy at all. Even today, I wouldn't even consider myself full light. I had learned that I have to integrate darkness into my personality, even as it is today, right now. You know, so even some of those negative experiences helped catapult me to this. Like, for example, when I was homeless, I stayed in a trap house. If you don't know what that is, it's where like drug dealers move their product, and it was full of obviously drugs, addicts, and in my case, pit bulls. And we would sleep on the floor in there, and the pit bulls, you know, where we would sleep, they would come in the room and they would poop. And I felt so dispirited. I felt like, wow, like this is what my life is. And that moment and that low is one of the things that helped me become a beacon of light, because it's just a reminder to me that you can go through anything. You can go through the worst things. You can go through being sexually assaulted. You can go through being physically abused. You can go through having low self-esteem, but those circumstances do not have to define you. And so when I started to realize that no matter what I went through, no matter how much money I had, no matter how much money my mother had or did not have, that didn't define me as a person. That is when I started to become this light person that I am. And I found freedom in life and in living, to know that it doesn't matter about any of those things in the past. It doesn't matter even about what happens today. It matters about who I believe I am and who I choose to be. And the more I chose my life, the more I chose my personality, the more I chose the thoughts that I want to think. Because I told you guys I suffered with some mental health issues in the past. I'm not diagnosed with anything now, and I don't take any prescription medicine now.
Congratulations.
Thank you. But it was only because I had to actively choose every thought that I think. I had to actively choose every emotion that I felt. Because if I were to derive my emotions off of my circumstances, then I wouldn't be anything. I would still be homeless. I would still be depressed. I would still be sad. I would still feel unworthy, because that's what my life told me I amounted to. But when you choose to tell yourself otherwise, then that's what comes to pass. So that's definitely what helped me get to the point where I am today, choosing.